right? So in theory, it would sound good to say, burn that bed, you don't need it anymore. But you can't, whatever your life has been, there's still evidence of it. I was thinking about it yesterday because, Ken's ex-wife Lisa was there. And, we've been together at lots of functions in the last 13 years. You can't pretend like somebody didn't have a life. Like I remember one of my single friends one time after I went through a divorce, he said, "Do you ever see your ex-wife?" I'm like, "Yeah, every Friday when I pick up the kid." Like he said, "I just didn't think you'd ever see her again." I said, "Yeah, she's the mother of my children, and of course I'm going to be I'm going to be seeing her as long as I'm around, because you've had children with somebody, then they have children. Guess who's all at the hospital together? So you have to learn a way to coexist. You can't pretend like somebody didn't have a life before. And sometimes, as much as we want to say the past didn't happen, the past, of course, it happened. And that's why this one particular story, I think, is so important. And last week we talked about the fact that Jesus saw the man sometime later in the temple, and the man still had his bed with him. And that's why Jesus said to him, be careful that a worse thing doesn't come on you. In other words, like, yes, I told you to take that bed up, but you're going to have to change the way that you look at it, talk about it. It is part of your history that you carry with you, but you can't be victimized by your history. You have to be empowered by your history now. One thing I told Howie this morning, I said, the fact that you've done this, I said, I have sort of a list of accomplishments, things that I've done that I knew how impossible it was for me to do it, but I did it. I really draw strength from those memories. It's like David remembering the bear and the lion before he faced the giant. You have to remember your stories, but you have to remember them in the good way. Go ahead. We've even discussed how past, present, and future are really all simultaneously existent, and we've gone deeply into it from both a spiritual and neuroscientific paradigm. But the series is actually about the process of manifestation and how we create our reality out of our subconscious mind. Taking up your bed, which is emblematic of memories, past experiences, trigger points, trauma response, negative patterns of thinking, and walking into a new reality seems on the surface like a contradiction in terms at best. In other words, how can I do both? If you're telling me to walk, why am I taking up my bed? If I'm healed, I don't need the sick bed, right? But the fact that he says take up your bed and walk means you don't forget your past, you rethink your past. And now the bedroll is a trophy. Now, not a crutch. Now you carry it to say, look, through many dangers, toils, and snares I have already come. You take it as a badge of honor. Go ahead. But as I personally evolve, I find that it's easier for me to believe for the impossible and to manifest miracles. But at the same time, I've never felt more realistic and practical about viewing life as it is. To the point now that if somebody comes to me with a problem, I don't really offer a lot of solutions. I know ministers are supposed to, but I have to tell people like, God, I hate that for you. And in the conversation, they find the solution. But if you just walk right in with, let it go, move on, it's in the past, don't think about it, it comes across as insensitive. So you have to find a way to be compassionate to people and empathetic. And to encourage them to move toward the light. But people have got to move at their own pace. When you're awakened in the morning, if somebody wakes you up, you would like them, turn on a light in the next room. Yeah. Or turn a little music on, or like don't just like flip a highlight on in my face, and like we're in the army, and you're gonna blow. What is it? Revelry? Is that what they play in the morning? Like that. That's gonna start. We're not in the military right now. That's gonna start my day off badly. I have to ease into my day. That's why sometimes that snooze alarm is really awesome. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's the snooze just saying, you got to get up a little bit. Like, okay, shut up. But you also know I'm going to hit this snooze and it's going to remind me in a minute because I need for it to remind me. I don't want it to go, don't you worry about a thing. You don't have to go to work today. No, I need to be accountable, but I also need to be, you can't yank that butterfly out of the cocoon prematurely or you're going to kill it. And so, I was young and stupid, but the way I used to minister to people, now I realize I was really trying to get people to walk in faith, but it came across insensitive to where they were. And, that's what life just does for you. Life seasons you. Now somebody tells you, you've lived enough time on this earth, there's very little things you can't relate to. Somebody tells you about birth or death or loss or breakups or whatever, you've got some point of reference. Been there, done that, And as you get older, I find, you talk to me about stuff, I'm like, oof, I hate that for you. What you gonna do? Because you know what? They're only gonna do what they're ready to do. That's right. So you can preach a big fabulous sermon, but if they're not ready for it, they're not gonna heed your words anyway. And so that's why I find now just giving people a chance where they can vent and own their feelings, even their wrong feelings. Because you know what? If you feel it, you feel it. You have to. Go ahead. Even when I call those things which are not as though they are, I am still very cognizant of what actually is. That's why I don't overreact when I find myself falling back into an old way of thinking. It's simply the awareness of an old familiar mat rolled up and tucked firmly under my arm that I carry with me as I walk into a greater place of healing and awareness. You don't need to burn the bed of sickness. You just need to pick it up, change the narrative of your story until it permeates your subconscious and start walking and keep walking. I'll say more about this on Sunday for part 3 of the series. The bottom line I'll leave with you today is the simple fact that you are indeed the angel that you've been waiting for. And only you can trouble the water by changing how you see it and how you talk about it. Yes, I wrote that. You're welcome. Because this is what I think. Wherever that urban legend came from about an angel, I think anything that people believe has some kernel of truth in it. Like if you tell me anything from reincarnation to astral projection to like multiverse, any of these outrageous ideas, I think, well, there's probably some truth in it, or it wouldn't have lasted this long. So there was something about the water in that pool that drew people to it. Somehow it had the reputation of being a place of healing. So the idea of an angel, and there's a famous old spiritual, wade in the water. Wade in the water, children, wade in the water. God's going to trouble the water. So it's the idea we're waiting on God to do something. That's fine, but it's the God in you that has to do something. Like you're waiting on God, God's waiting on you. It's symbiotic. So I wanted to give that point of reference today because I don't want to make this series all about the man at Bethesda. That's just the launching pad for this. The main thing I want to get across in this, and this is why I've mentioned neuroscience. From what little bit I've read, these guys that talk about manifesting reality from the subconscious. Their point is this. Your subconscious is the hard drive of your life. Even yesterday, we were sitting at a table with Ken's daughter-in-law's stepfather. And, you know, when you're at a certain age group, you end up talking about health. It just, you know, he was asking Ken how he got through his thing. He was telling us about his heart issues. And I don't know how old he is, but he's in our age group. It's a big group. And so I'm making conversation, and I said, you know, I told him that thing about, recently Ken and I were both up taking our meds in the morning, and Ken said, we're like two old men taking our meds. I said, we're not like two old men, we are two old men taking this is our reality. But I said, you know, I have a series of things that I take. Some are prescribed, some are just things I want to take, like magnesium or, you know, certain things. And but I've learned, like I have a bag. He uses one of those pill dividers. That's a little too organized for me. I have mine in my backpack in a certain thing. And so I know when I take one pill, I put the bottle over on this side. Because if I don't, I will stand there like I'm watching the news and I'm taking the pill, and I think, did I just take that? And you think, how could you not remember something you did 5 seconds ago? Because my subconscious is doing it. It's so programmed into my morning ritual that I'm not thinking about it. And so when people say, my subconscious doesn't do anything, yeah, it is. A lot of times your subconscious drives you to work in the morning. Have you ever done that? By the same token, have you ever missed an exit that you've taken 10,000 times? And you think, well, because your subconscious is somewhere else. You're something else. You know, because you're so deep in thought, you're like, who's been driving this car for the last 20 minutes? Well, your subconscious was. Fortunately, your subconscious has cruise control. I didn't know this till yesterday. I keep seeing these cars with these round things on the top. And I didn't know till yesterday. I mean, I've seen a lot of them next to me. And he said, those are unmanned cars.
And be trying to get away from them with all I can, but don't trust them.
And I said, what's the thing spinning on top? He said, that's the GPS system. I said, oh, why does that make me so uncomfortable? Like I live close to, my downtown house, I live close to Georgia Tech. So a lot of times I'll cut through there to avoid the interstate. And there's little robots everywhere now from Amazon that are delivering things. I went to get my hair cut right there on the campus and nearly tripped on one. This little R2D2 is just riding right by me. I'm like, oh my God, the future is now. But believe it or not, you're robotic on things. There's things that are just automatic response. So what these neuroscientists say is, here's their basic premise. Your subconscious was shaped largely by childhood experiences. And if you don't rethink certain things, you don't even realize it, but you're recreating your childhood constantly. Because your subconscious has just taught you to respond a certain way. Like sometimes you'll be having a conversation as an adult with another adult, but it's really, for lack of a better term, your inner child on a playground talking to another child. I know. Some of you are like, oh my God. It's true. If you think about it, and I'm not saying that all sickness is psychosomatic. I don't believe that. I know sickness is real. I'm not saying that. I'm saying there are things that you feel deeply worthy or unworthy for. I mean, just that they've just been so ingrained in you that you've never even thought to challenge them. If I may use this analogy one more time, please. At the end of The Miracle Worker, the movie about Helen Keller that was taken from the Broadway play, the whole thing, you know Helen Keller was deaf, mute, and blind. And but she was not. She still had her senses up till she was about 2 years old, so she did know some words. She knew water, she knew mama, she could say things that age appropriate. And so when Annie Sullivan, the teacher, came, it was played by Anne Bancroft in the few years before she became Mrs. Robinson. Sorry, I know movies are a big part of, there's a lot of movies going on in there. There's a whole bunch of Bible and some Broadway and some movies. That's the basic landscape. There's a little rock and roll. But she teaches her the sign language alphabet, and she keeps doing it in her palm. And Helen Keller learned the alphabet. It didn't connect. She just could imitate the symbols. And there's that scene at the end where the parents just let her wreak havoc because they felt bad for her because she was disabled. And so they'd be eating food, and she'd be like walking around the table. Patty Duke played her, and she'd be in everybody's food, and she poured water out. And so Annie Sullivan just would not take it anymore. She drug her out to the pump, and she's making her pump the water. And she keeps saying, W-A-T-E-R, water. And she does the pump, and there's this moment where suddenly the light comes on. And she goes, whoa, whoa. And she goes, she knows. That's why you have to keep exposing yourself to truth, because at some point it will kick in. Yes. At some point you'll say, oh, this is applicable to me. This isn't for everybody else in the room. This is actually me. And people can tell you something a million times, but you can't, yes. You can lead a horse to water, you can't make him drink. But when it's time for you to drink, you can get it, and the light will come on. And that's very, I've never had a word for what it is I do. I mean, I'm definitely not a preacher. I guess I'm teacher-ish. But I hear other teachers, and I think, I'm not really like that, because I don't study like a teacher does. I don't know what it is I do. So I don't need compliments. What I love is when somebody tells me they get it. That I find very satisfying. When somebody says, man, when you said that today, I don't want to hear you're a good preacher, because I'm not. I don't aspire to be a good preacher. What I like to, whatever it is, I don't even know I want a name for it. Manna was a question that says, it was just the question, what is it? Some of you have been driving to different buildings for years, listening to me do stuff, and you're still going, what is it? What is he? I don't know. But I love when somebody says, oh, when you said that thing today, that went off in something like, yes, that I love to hear. And it's because I'm going through the same, in different ways, I'm going through the same process. That's why I end up talking about my own story so much. It's not that I'm that self-involved. It's like I'm my own laboratory. I can say, well, this is what I'm doing, and this is what's working for me. Maybe this will help you. So the main thing I don't want this month to get by without really focusing on the manifestation part. Because I do believe, I don't think you're controlling everything in the world, but you're controlling a lot. You're making a lot happen. And even if I say that and you feel defensive, you have some more work to do. Because until you realize, oh, maybe I'm making some stuff happen. Until you could say that and really mean it, you're going to be by the Pool of Bethesda for 38 years. And that's tough love, but that's the truth. Einstein said this. I quoted him last week. I'm going to quote him a little bit differently. For those of us who believe in physics, the distinction between past, present, and future is only a stubborn, persistent illusion. When we go to tea this afternoon, Robin and I will have to include Ken in the conversation because there's certain conversations I would have with you that he doesn't know what we're talking about. Because we have the 12-year-old me knows you. Even, I was also told this to Hallie. I said, when I texted, it's so hard for me to call her Louisa, but when I texted Miss Moffett last week, I can't imagine she would watch this. She would hate that I'm saying this. But I said, I don't want to just keep bugging you for updates, but I just want to make sure, are you okay? Whatever. And she said, we're fine. She says, I can't fly anywhere. It's after June or July, so we're going to be here for a while. So she said, we want to have you both back over for dinner. And she said, I love you both, ! Well, some of y'all can say I love you, and I'll say I love you back. I can't do it. Like, with Miss Moffett, I'm still a 10th grader that wants her to think I'm cool. Because she was my cool teacher. The other teachers were like old, but Miss Moffett, I mean, all the stuff you did in the 70s that people don't talk about now, she talked about them in the classroom, and I was like, Miss Moffett, I can't believe you told us that. But it also made me think she is so cool. So I couldn't say I love you. I'm just not there yet. Do you understand? Because when maybe it will evolve later, but right now, like, when I talk to you, it's still 1973, and I don't say I love you. So it's like, okay, stay strong. But she's had a near-death experience, and that will also, you get a little looser with the L word. And I will. I showed her a picture of a painting I did when I had a heart issue. I said, I'd like to do one of these for you. And if that's okay, she says, Jimmy, you are a blessing. I said, I'll take that as a yes. Because to her, I'm still Jimmy Swilley, you know. And, but the point is everybody you've ever been, you still are. I can talk to Hallie about something that we laughed about in 1976, that if I explained it to you, you'd be like, why is that? That's not funny. It's not funny now. Nothing's funny now. You don't laugh at anything now. Back then, all I remember of dorm life, not just with him, but with several of our friends, was just being up all night and laughing as hard. That kind of laughter where you're doubled over and you're not making any. I haven't done that in so long that if I even come close to it, I'm surprised. I'm like, what is that? But you remember when you were at a certain age where life really hadn't kicked in that much, and just the stupidest stuff was so funny. And that's what I remember, like laughing till we cried. And we still, when I talk to people I knew from back then, we still have that affinity. It lets you know you are still who you are, always were. Which is why I'm having to, even being in an environment that my dad created, every day I'm relearning myself. Because, I mean, as recently as when they first moved in, I posted a picture of it the day before yesterday. It was a picture of Ken and my dad working in the front yard. And my dad used to always accuse me of losing his stuff, and it was like a big deal. Like for years after I went to college, he still accused me of taking stuff to school. And Dad, I haven't been in college in 15 years. Like what? But that part of me that was still afraid of him, I remember one time Ken and I were putting out some pine straw in their front yard, and he let me use his silver pocket knife. And somehow we're doing it. I said, Ken, I've lost this pocket knife. It's here. And he said, we'll find it. I said, no, you don't understand. He really, I'm in so much trouble. And suddenly I wasn't an adult. I was like I was a 7-year-old that was afraid of his reaction. That's all I was saying. So I'm like frantically looking. I mean, as I thought about it later, I thought, I bought him this pocket knife. Like, why? Like, what the heck? But I mean, just for that moment, I was everything in me was wanting to say, I'm not irresponsible. I know you think I am, but I'm not. I am responsible. We're constantly having to update our files. I had to take Jared. He had double carpal tunnel surgery Thursday. And so I took him there. So on the way back, he did well. On the way back, I was telling him about several things that happened with the house. And I was telling him what happened with the septic tank. And he said, I hope you got a couple of references and made sure that. I said, Jared, it's fine. And, he's lecturing me about how people want to rip you off. And I wanted to say, yeah, that's what he just got in the car. I told him, he said, you look like you're a boxer. But he says, Dad, I work in construction, and people, they always want to rip you off. And I wanted to say, Jared, I've owned homes for 50 years. Thank you. But I'm thinking he means well, and he just got out of anesthesia, so I'm going to let him lecture me. But a part of me wanted to say, give me a little credit. I mean, I've been doing this long before you were born. But, that's his way of trying to help. So that one didn't affect me as much. When it's your kids, it's a little different. When it's a parent, you're like, I'm not maybe who you think I am. That's why even with your adult children, you have to let them grow up in your eyes. Because sometimes you're holding them at a certain place because you're seeing them that way. You hear me? That's why you have to let them make their own decisions and refuse to say, I told you so when it doesn't go well. You know why? Because you made your decisions. That might not have been exactly what your parents thought you should do. And everybody deserves to grow up. Now, back to our point is, when you let yourself grow up, the subconscious can change, and you can start producing better stuff. Does that, what I said a minute ago about I've never been in a place where I can speak stuff and I see it happen. I mean, I can tell I'm manifesting very easily these days. But I'm also very aware of negative stuff. I'm not living in la la land. Does that resonate with it? Do you know what I'm talking about? Like, I know what's going on in the world. I know what's going on in our country. I do watch the news. I don't watch it like I used to, but I do. Like, okay, how much? Let me catch me up. I'm not out of touch with the suffering of life. But at the same time, I'm seeing miracles happen a lot. I mean, I'm telling you, more than I used to. I can see it happening more. I mean, to the point I'm being very careful what I say these days. Because I think, man, my words becoming flesh like real easily lately. Go ahead. This is just a meme. I just liked this is to the point. Your greatest weapon is your mind. Train it to see opportunities, not obstacles. I don't talk a lot about training, but I do think there's something to it. You have to keep reinforcing. If there's a situation that you're used to responding to in a particular way, you have to train yourself to have a different reaction to it. Or otherwise, you'll just keep recreating. Your subconscious keeps manifesting the same reality. And so you have to, nearly to the point that when something repetitive happens, you just need to say, all right, I'm going to see this as a blessing because it's become a touchstone for me now to realize I'm not who I was even a year ago. let me say, I'm who I was, I'm a better version. I'm who I've always been. I'm who I was from the foundation of the world. But in this dimension, I'm becoming a better manifestation of that. I mean, you're really, in a sense, born again every day that you wake up. The steadfast love of the Lord never fails. His mercies never come to an end. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. That's Lamentations 3. So every morning when you get up, it is a new day. And you have to train yourself to see it that way. Because if you say, here we go again, you're automatically, you start manifesting a negative reality. That's why even for this flight this week, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to this trip. I'm looking forward to being with my daughter and my granddaughters, and all's going to be well. And my mom's going to be taken care of. And Ken's not going to be stressed out with that. And I'm blessed when I go out, and I'm blessed when I come back. Because if you don't start putting that out there, I'm going to have favor at the airport. Everything's going to run smoothly. Everything's going to be fine. And if there are delays or whatever, I'm going to even see that as fortuitous. It may be sparing me from something bad down the road. I mean, just to learn to be in. I also know be at the airport plenty early so you create an atmosphere for good things to happen. Like the last time we flew was, I told you, it was in December. We went to New York. And with Delta, I'm still listed as, they spell Jim Earl as one name because I used to travel that way. And so we get all the way out. We'd already been in line, and the woman said, the TSA is really cracking down. The boarding pass has got to say exactly the name that it is on the thing. And I said, well, can I take care of it later? No, I got to take care of this now. And so she's making me, it just took forever with her on the phone. And I'm looking at my watch thinking, oh, man, if she doesn't hurry up, we're going to miss this flight. And when you're flying to New York that day and you've already got tickets for a show that night, it's like everything. We got to stay on a certain, because if you put me too late, we're going to miss everything. And it took what seemed like forever, but then when she got through, she said, I'm going to walk you up to the gate since I took all this time. She ended up saving us time. We passed so many people in that line. It was like a joke. It was like one of those cartoons where you just keep seeing, I'm like, good Lord, this is the longest line that we didn't have to stand in I have ever seen. I'm like, see you, suckers. And so I was like, it turned out to be a blessing. And I remember standing there in line because I could feel myself getting stressed. Because, you've already paid money for a thing. You're like, I'm not trying to be difficult. I've got X amount of time for this to work. It needs to work. And I remember standing there while she was on the phone forever, trying to get this thing changed, thinking, you lead meditation weekends. Why don't you breathe and calm down? And I did. And it's, it only takes, if you've done this a lot, it only takes 2 or 3 breaths. And I was standing there and I mean, literally, I was, and then it started changing. If you keep spiraling downward with the stress, and then your attitude makes you snippy, and then the person has to respond to you because they've already been dealing with unhappy people all morning, and you got to become the thermostat. Stop being the thermometer. You have to set the tone. And you could train yourself to see this is not an obstacle, it's an opportunity. Dr. Doty says this, neuroplasticity, it's an idea that your brain's not totally fixed, like there's some malleability to it. Neuroplasticity enables manifestation, the brain's ability to modify and adapt its structure and function throughout life is the foundation of manifesting. This process, known as neuroplasticity, allows us to create new neural circuits and prune away old ones that no longer serve us. By redirecting our attention, we can literally change our brains, creating more gray matter in areas that help us learn, perform, and manifest. He's coming entirely from a scientific standpoint. And his point is, we talk so much about being hardwired for things, and you are, but your brain is not made out of cement. And you can be renewed in the spirit of your mind. You can rethink things. You can't, it's the definition, the word repent. It's from the Greek word metaneo, to change your life by changing the way you see things. And you don't do it automatically. It takes a while for you to get used to looking at a thing a different way, because you've looked at it a certain way for so long. If you've already been through some stuff with a doctor, and every time you go they give you bad news, you have to change. You have to get off that. You have to change the way you're feeling about it. Say, no matter what they're going to tell me today, they're here to help me. Because if you go in, if you're paying money to see somebody and you're seeing them as the enemy, you're self-sabotaging. You got to say, I believe this person is working for my good. They want to help me get better. Just tweaking it, because if you go in, like I told you with my blood pressure, because I have issues with I'm afraid of Nurse Ratched that comes and takes, and I've had to tell a couple of them, like, I think you're the reason my blood pressure's high, because I feel like I'm disappointing you, especially Raina at Dr. Hoke's office, because she is no nonsense Puerto Rican woman who does not play, and she does not like when your blood pressure spikes. So when I see Raina walking down, I'm relaxed. And last year I told her, I said, can I just tell you, I said, I'm a little bit scared of you. She says, why? I said, because you get so mad when my blood pressure's high. I said, I think you're making it high. She said, nobody's ever said that to me before. I said, well, maybe somebody needs to. I said, I know you're just doing your job, but I get real stressed when you put that sleeve on me and we're making eye contact and it's like, these numbers better be low. I'm like, oh my God. And she finally, this last time I went, she remembered it. And she said, no, I'm actually glad you told me that. I've lightened up a little bit. I said, thank you. She said, oh, I love your blood pressure today. I said, Raina, can I get a recording of you saying that? Because I'm going to put it on a loop and I'm going to go to sleep at night hearing, I love your blood pressure. I love your blood pressure. But that changed because I had to change it. Because I thought, if I don't say something, I'm building up a stronghold with this. And, I feel like when I walk in here, I feel like I'm having a heart attack because I'm dreading, the reactions with everybody. I got to have a doctor with a little bit of a sense of humor. You know what I mean? If you're too austere and too you're scaring me real bad. And anyway, you get my point. And I'm going to end with another quote of his. I want to end with this because I like that he says, self-compassion has the power to heal the parts of us that feel chronically unsafe and unloved. The basis for our shadow and our resistance to thriving, and transform them into vital sources of wisdom and compassion to share with others. I love the concept of self-compassion. Because you know who's harder on you than anybody else? You. And it's okay for you to hold yourself to a high standard. I support that. I don't believe you should lie to yourself. I think you should hold yourself accountable for things. I think you should tell yourself the truth. I think you should also give yourself a major break in certain areas and say to yourself periodically, you know, with what you've had to deal with, baby, you're just doing pretty darn good. And you need that reinforcement from yourself. I mean, to the point that if anybody else tells you that, it's just a confirmation of what you already know. You have to keep telling it to yourself until, not that you want to be flippant about it, you do appreciate when other people notice it, but that you already knew it. That you're happy that other people can see it now. But loving yourself is not enough. You have to be compassionate with yourself. You have to be patient with yourself. I might have said this last week, but did I talk about cheat days last week? I mentioned that. Because a lot of these real high-powered diets, they will tell you give yourself a cheat day periodically, just because you psychologically, need that. And I think there's something to that. Yes, make your progress and keep moving forward and going from glory to glory. But if you have a day where you're having a little bit of a setback, don't overreact to it. It's okay. Let yourself feel some stuff. Let it run its course. The analogy I say is let the dogs out and let them run in the backyard until they get tired. Sometimes you just have to let yourself. When you resist a feeling too much, you end up empowering it, galvanizing it. There's nothing sadder than seeing somebody trying to be positive and you can tell, wow, they are really faking it till they make it. It has to come from a place of authenticity. But when you do feel it, let your light shine. I know when I'm in the zone like that, I milk it for everything I can. I try to, when I'm feeling that positivity, I want to paint stuff and write stuff and call people and be active because I'm not sure I'm going to feel that way tomorrow. Bishop, are you moody? Yeah, so are you. It's called being human. And stuff does affect you, and people's words do affect you, and the news does affect you, and the weather does affect you. It doesn't have to be catastrophic, but it affects you. And you're lying to yourself if you say it doesn't. So you have to give yourself some compassion. You have to learn to let yourself rest. You have to learn to, some days, positive people are great, but sometimes they can be obnoxious. And if you're not feeling it, if you're not there mentally and what's the proverb that says, like, him who takes away a coat in winter is like a man who sings songs to him who is of a heavy heart. Somebody's loved one dies, stop telling them they're in a better place. That's not helping. You're supposed to put your arm around them and cry and go wash their dishes. Just do stuff. And don't ask them 1,000 times, how are you feeling? How are you feeling? Because how do you think they're feeling? I don't watch a lot of sports events, but it always cracks me up when somebody's just lost the Super Bowl, the World Series, or they just had the living daylights beaten out of them in a boxing, and somebody's like, how do you feel right now? Like, oh, great. Why? Why do you ask? Like, why are you even interviewing this person right now? How do you think they feel? So we'll do one more installment of this, but I want to, before you leave today, I want to bless your subconscious mind. I want to bless your creative ability to create and to create good stuff. You know what? You've got some time left.
I agree.
You deserve to have some good memories and have some good things happen. Life's not supposed to be just miserable all the time. It's not supposed to be just hard, and you're supposed to have some fun. And Like something as simple today as us going to tea. It's just something I said one time that I'd like to do. And I thought, you know what, then why not do it? And we planned this a month ago because she was going out of town. I mean, I messaged her. This is only the third time I've seen you since 7th grade. We've reconnected through Facebook. And I didn't even over-explain it. I said, hey, do you want to go to tea at Dr. Bombay's underwater tea party? She says, yes, I absolutely do. Okay.
You don't have to ask me twice.
When's a good time? Because you live, where do you live? You don't live.
I live in Buford.
She lives in Buford, so she had to drive all the way down here. And I said, why don't you just come to Metron that day and we just leave your car here and we'll drive over there. Okay, fine. But we had to plan it a month in advance. One thing I love that Howie did this thing is he said, it's always been on my bucket list. And I decided, why not go ahead and do it now? I said, good for you. It's inspirational to me. There's some things I can't do until I'm a little freer on my schedule. But there's also things I've wanted to do that I think, you know what? I'm going to do it. Just why not? And you don't have to explain it. You don't have to defend it. If you like to travel, go somewhere. I do think, you know what? Y'all have worked hard. You've raised children. You've been, you know what I mean? Travel as much as you want to. Howie asked me one time, he said, do you think people think I travel too? I said, why do you care? I mean, you're paying for it. That's what you do. You're into travel. Like, what does it matter? Because there's always somebody somewhere that would say, you going on another trip?
Yes, I am.
Yeah. But there's always somebody that wants to tell you you shouldn't enjoy something. I remember my dad asked me, because I love going to New York as a tourist. I don't know that I want to live there. But my dad, because my parents would have hated that. I did not get that from them. They would have just seen crowds and, and my dad said, why do you want to go back? You've already been. I said, Dad, that would be like saying, why are you going to the beach? You've already seen the ocean. That was like, and he got it. He said, oh, is that the way you, I said, yeah. Every time we go, we end up looking at stuff we've looked at a bunch of times, like we've never seen it. We're like, oh my God, there's St. Patrick's Cathedral. Well, we've been in there hundreds of times, and every time I go in, I'm like, oh my God, it's incredible. I could become a Catholic. But I don't want to lose that. It's miserable when you see somebody's their pilot light's gone out, and they're just phoning it in for, like, don't do that. The good part about being, like, even at my age right now, I'm to a place now where I'm still healthy enough. I can do some stuff, and I know things I want to do, and I've still got some time to do them, and I've got a little money, and it's like, that's the greatest time to be alive. And I enjoyed all the other times, but like I always say, you don't have to hate the summer to love the fall. All right. Did you get anything out of this today?
You know, Bishop, I just came back from New York. I lived in New York for 20 years. Every time I go, there's something different. This time I was like, girls are three girls. Let's meet in New York for Mother's Day. It was the best time I've ever had in New York. I mean, I did go to walk into St. Patrick's Cathedral, but there's one life to live, and it's time to enjoy life.
Absolutely.
Listen, if you're toxic, you stay out.
And to have that experience with your girls, absolutely.
You have to live life, and just something else to piggyback.
I love hearing that. I'm so glad you shared that, because I get that so deeply. Go ahead.
So, I used to work in hospitality, so I told the girls, I'll pay for hotel, you guys pay for food and everything else. So I booked the room, and my American Express, I looked at it one day when I came, maybe Thursday, and I'm like, there's a couple $100 extra. So I called, and normally when I call, I'm polite, hi, how are you, how's your day? And I think because I was nice to this person, yeah, this was wine cost, but hey, I'm in church, yeah. But it was $50 for 3 nights or one, right?
Yeah.
So they took the charge off, but that came from me being a decent human
Totally.
to that, you know.
Totally. And you have to think the person on the other end of that phone, they're just doing their job.
Right.
And if you go at them,
Yeah.
they're automatically like, well, I'm not gonna help you out. I mean, people are people.
Yeah. I just want to ask you.
No, I love this. Go ahead.
My youngest daughter, who still lives here in Atlanta, I was telling her how they took the charge off. I said, remember, Mommy always said, just be nice.
Right.
Just be a decent human being. I could have come off and said,
Right.
what's
Right.
extra charge on my American Express? You know, just come off and ask.
Right.
It's just, so I always say, they've seen me whilst growing up. I used to work in the corporate office, so I said, oh, I work at corporate. And I'll tell the hotel, you know, this doesn't look right. And so they've also instilled, that has been instilled in them where they, if there's an issue with anything, not just hospitality, work as well, you know, just the way you have to.
Absolutely. Amen. Absolutely. A soft answer turns away wrath. And yes, I've been in situations before where I could tell they were sort of misreading me. And I say, no, let me explain. I'm not accusing you. I just want to make sure. I'm just asking, is there anything you can do about this? And just giving someone the respect, like it changes everything. Absolutely. Yeah.
So I was on a phone call this weekend as well, and because of certain things, and because I like to make at least one person laugh a day, that makes me feel good.
Sure.
Because I can put a smile on somebody else's face. When we do that to somebody who's in customer service who gets wrath all the time, I have them tell me over and over again, thank you so much, I need that. That blesses me more than it blesses them.
I do that all the time, Joe. I have to be careful how I joke with people, because if there's a vibe that I feel like I like you, I want to, and it usually works out really well. Like if I'm asking for somebody to do something and they're looking, I'll be like, let the Lord use you. Let him have his way. And people who grew up in church think it's hysterically funny. They're like, I can't believe you said that. I'm like, you got to let God work. Good.
You know what, I was thinking about earlier when you were saying about how when you and Ken was taking your mom a sandwich before you went out to dinner.
Right.
And she was like, no problem. And Dory said, I said, do you realize that it's the change in her environment?
Yeah.
Because, let me tell you something. Reggie know, and the people that work around me know, that I am the most happiest in my house. I can go anywhere in the world, but let me tell you when I'm the happiest. I walk into my bedroom and I look at my bed and I go, thank you, Jesus.
So every Sunday that you show up, we should count it as an honor that you left your environment.
I believe that my house needs me to hold it down like it's going to get up and walk away.
You know, that's abundant life. If you love being home that much, I mean, I like going out too, but I love my environment
I
too.
love my environment, and I think that now she's in a place with her memories,
Yeah.
and she's comfortable around her things, and it makes it easier for
Yeah.
her to say, you know what, you okay, because I'm okay.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Jim, can I say, you're definitely a teacher, and being a teacher is a very holy, honorable thing. And somebody can say, well, aren't we all teachers? Yes, in a sense, but old school King James Version Bible says there's a gift of teaching. And I've listened to you for 10, 12 years. Absolutely, you're a teacher. And so.
Thank you.
And they referred to Jesus as a teacher.
Yes.
So if it was good enough for Jesus,
Well, I would say it takes one to know one, because you are too. But yes. Thank you. Beth, what?
I was just thinking, Dr. Doty mentioned too about the shadow work, and I learned more about that too through some spirituality and even the mental health community, because they working through my issues. But that whole thing, and I think I mentioned this last week to you, it's the unraveling the stuff that we were taught as kids and in church,
Right.
you know, and you've taught us so well about rightly connecting and.
Right.
You know, that's the thing, when we do that shadow work, we're the only ones who can do it. It's our
Right.
lives and our perception that has to be adjusted.
Right.
And as I do that more in my own private time, to pray, to cry, to have mercy on myself and my, you know, who I formerly was, I'm different now. That shadow work, when I come back into the presence of people, then I'm not triggered in the same ways that I was.
No doubt about it.
Yeah.
Well, and that's why even, I mean, if you take the concept of rightly dividing to its truest meaning, I mean, you're able to look at a verse of Scripture and say, I understand why that person wrote that at that time, but I don't think that's right. And I'm not going to throw my Bible away. I'm going to take up my Bible and walk, because I don't want to live without it. But I can also say, Paul, I love you, but no, not on that. On that one, you were wrong. And not be afraid to say that. That's what we lost with fundamentalism. It's like, no, this is the way it's written, and, you know, there's no wiggle room. Like, yeah, the whole thing it's malleable. Absolutely.
Well, fundamentalism too, it didn't allow us to understand that other people's belief system wasn't necessarily
Right.
wrong. We thought we were the only ones that could
Right.
do that. You know, we want to go and proselytize everybody.
Right.
And we don't need to. They know God is
Exactly.
we just don't understand their.
Just have a different way, different terms. Yes, no doubt about it. Let me tell you, compassion will set you free. There's several things that have happened this week, just little things, the way somebody reacted to me or said something, including what Jared said to me. I'm like, I don't take offense at it. I think, you know, I understand how you're seeing things, and I don't even have to have an opinion about it. That's your journey. But you can't see that without compassion, because if you don't have compassion, you always have to be right. You have to make sure, and it's like, I don't care if I'm right about this or not. Like, I understand your point. That's why I love it when some of these, you know, like FBI agents or different people who have been examined by the Congress or something, they'll say something, and I've heard, like, people who have a background in law will not argue, but they'll say, I take your point, and then they keep talking, and I think that's brilliant, because what they're saying is, I heard what you said, I completely don't agree with it, but I take your point, because until people think their point has been taken, the human urge is, I've got to make you see this. You know, if somebody says, I see what you're saying, I get it. Now let me tell you, you know, that's why if you've ever gone to what's the thing what's the word for it? Like, sometimes lawyers make you go to it, where it's like arbitration. Mediation. That's what I'm thinking. They will say, all those are nearly it. But they'll say, what did they say to you? And then they'll say, what do you, like, you say their thing, and then they say, what did you hear him say?
Right.
Because sometimes somebody will say something back, and they're like, no, that's not what I was saying. So, and it takes a third party to, anyway, anybody else? That's good. Yeah, Ross.
I would like to say thank you. You can see I'm the only one in here with the mask on. I'm not in here irresponsible. And I'm not contagious. So I want to say that. So if you feel a cough coming, it's from your side, not from me. I want to say thank you, because you are definitely my shepherd. There are things that have been brewing within my soul. And you dealt with check
Today even?
Yes.
Really?
This sermon here today.
Wow.
Because I was formulating this text, or I said, maybe I just need to call him. And then I don't even need to do that because the Spirit of God spoke through you and say, Rosalind, this is what you need to do with this. This is what you need to do with this. You need to change your mindset on that. I mean, just do today. So I just want to say thank you. Shepherd of God. Yes.
Whew. Y'all better not try to follow that. Thank you, Roz. I appreciate that. And you've been listening to me a long time. I appreciate that.
You my dude.
All right, let's stand. Let's play the outro and then I'll speak a blessing over you. Today was really good. I enjoyed you all today.
Contributing to Metron is quick and easy. You can give anytime using any smartphone. Text the amount you would like to donate to 404-620-5044. You will then receive a notification that you successfully completed your donation. You may also visit bishonthennow.com and click the support tab to give there as well. When you contribute to Metron, you're also donating to the charity or organization of the month. Thank you for your investment into Metron.
If you have a check, make it JESM. If you have cash, pay it forward. And if you do give me a check, make sure you remember that. You get, and then Avery will say, "Did so and so give you a check?" And I'll be like,
Just wait till
"What was I?"
come back.
I'll have to remember what was I wearing that day. Because once it goes into the pocket. I also want to say, Ernie Thomas texted me this week. He was gone last week and he had to be somewhere again this weekend. He said, "I just wanted to let you know where I am because, you know, I always want to be there." And I said, "Well, thank you. That's very thoughtful of you. I appreciate that." And it was kind of interesting because that was the day that I wrote that thing to you about. I was listening to Eleanor Rigby, and one of the lyrics kind of got inside my head because it says, "Father McKenzie writing the words of a sermon that no one will hear." Now, I was thinking, is that what I do? No one comes near. I'm like, oh my God, nobody's coming. And so it was in a moment of vulnerability. But you gave me a good feedback on that.
By the way, I listened to you while sitting in Central Park.
Oh, really? So I was in Central Park last week? I love me some Central Park. Now, you got to stop talking about New York because now I'm going to want to go. I do love it. I've never been that I didn't love it. I wish I could tell you I did, but I do. I love it. Can we do a meditation weekend in Central Park? Like in the fall? I mean, it's 800-something acres. I'm sure we could find some spot. Did I just speak that into existence? You've never been to New York?
Meditation.
We're ready. I don't know if they should be allowed to even come here anymore.
I can't look at you, BJ.
That means you just got to take me.
I got a bag packed.
Take us to New York. BJ said, I'm with it. Right, I ain't got with y'all.
I speak a blessing over your mind and over particularly your subconscious. That whatever word you need to receive today, you've received with meekness the engrafted word that is able to save your soul. You are renewed in the spirit of your mind. You are not conformed to this world, but you're transformed by the renewing of it. You're going to have a beautiful day today and an excellent week. And good things are coming to you. And you wake up tomorrow saying, "This is the day the Lord has enabled me to make. I will rejoice and be glad in it." God bless you. Go in peace. Got nothing but love for you.